Okay. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Unacademy IAS. This is Shyam Kaggod here. Before I start the discussion, all of you, please do let me know, am I audible as well as visible? Please do let me know, am I audible as well as visible? Those who are present, please do let me know, audible and visible, so that I can start the discussion. Okay, done. Let's start then. So, welcome to another session of the Hindu News Analysis dated 16th April 2025. And in today's session, I've taken totally 10 articles. I've listed only 9, but in the ninth article, one I've taken from Indian Express and the other one from Hindu newspaper. So, totally 10 articles. Out of these, 7 articles are from Hindu newspaper, 3 articles are from Indian Express. This has been made in order to ensure that the discussion will be comprehensive and whatever you require in terms of, let's say, answering the questions in terms of the UPSC prelims and mains will be covered in a comprehensive manner. If you like this initiative, do hit the like button. And if you're yet to subscribe to our YouTube channel, kindly do it right now. Let me start the discussion. But before that, a very important announcement. If you are someone who is preparing for the Civil Services Examination 26 or 27, our courses are available at a discount of 60%. And if you use the code IAS English, then this will be available with an extension of 12 months free of cost. You do not have to pay any additional amount. You will get an extension of up to 12 months in your course duration. Those who are interested, please do check out the details by clicking on the link provided in the description below. And let me start the discussion. The first article, rising power demand and hydrogen factor. Okay, rising power demand and hydrogen factor. Now, what are the important points here? Point number one, all of you, I'm pretty sure you know that India's population is increasing. Correct? Anybody in the chat section has a doubt, please do let me know. India's population is increasing. And with the rise in the population, demand for electricity will also keep on increasing. Now, is it that only population growth will add to the demand for electricity? No. There is increased industrialization activity as well. You're seeing a lot of industrialization activity. For example, very often the newspaper as well as the statements of the ministers, you will see they will highlight that India is the third largest economy in terms of PPP. India is the fifth largest economy in terms of GDP, etc., etc. So whenever, right, understand this, whenever you talk about GDP, that is production of goods and services, industries will have to function. And when industries need to function, you require electricity. So with the rise in the population as well as with right more and more industrialization in the Indian economy, essentially you're seeing there is a huge demand or rise and the growth in terms of electricity as well. But as of now, the issue in terms of electricity is that majority of the production or the capacity in case of India is in terms of coal. That is, we are using the thermal power plants. The thermal power plants to produce electricity and supply. And this is not to say that we are not producing electricity from other sources. Yes, we are doing electricity production through solar, through wind, through nuclear, etc. But majority of the capacity as well as the production and supply in the domestic market is essentially coming from thermal power. But the problem with having a reliance on thermal power is it has a lot of pollution associated with this. That is, when you burn coal, right, emissions will be there, and this will contribute to, right, let's say, the pollution. India is one of the largest polluters in the global market because of this and many other activities. So, government of India very recently has been stating that they want to become net zero emission country. They want to become a net zero emission country by 2070. which means by 2070 we want to ensure there is a zero addition, net addition. There is a zero addition in terms of pollution that we are contributing to the environment. So in that particular regards, this article discusses what should we do, what measures should be undertaken by the government in order to shift away from, let's say, one of the largest polluters to ensure that we are net zero emitting country by 2070. The problem the article or the, let's say, writer says, because the coal usage in the India is very high, coal is not just used for production of electricity, coal is also used in industrial purposes. Listen to me carefully here. Coal is not used just for production of electricity. Coal is also used in the industrial purposes. What do I mean by this? I'll just take you back to your high school or colleges. In the college, you must have heard of smelting in the context of iron ore. All of you heard of this? Do let me know in the chat section. There is a process called as smelting. That is, you basically take the ore from the earth crust, then you basically undertake certain processes, and in the process of smelting, you use coal. And basically, when you use coal, again, right, the coal will be used, right, burnt in the process, emissions will be caused. So the writer simply says, we are not using coal only for the production of electricity, we are also using coal in other areas, that is the industrial purposes as well. So we need to address that particular issue. Not just shifting away from burning of coal for electricity, we also need to find an alternative to reduce the consumption of coal in industrial usage. So what should we do in that particular case? Simple. The writer simply says we need to focus on two very important aspects now. One, essentially promote renewable energy production plus nuclear energy. Promote renewable energy production plus nuclear energy. And second, also focus on the production of hydrogen. Focus on the production of hydrogen. Because hydrogen as a fuel, the government is promoting this usage of hydrogen as a fuel through multiple initiatives now. So focus on, right, let's say more and more production of nuclear energy, and also focus on the production of hydrogen. But what is the issue when you want to focus or shift the focus like this? The issue in simple terms is, in the context of nuclear energy, the context of nuclear energy right now, the nuclear power plants which we are operating, a lot of them are dependent on the nuclear material. And this nuclear material, we are basically importing it from other countries, right? We are refining, or we are using the refined version of uranium, etc. So in that particular context, government of India now says by 2047, we want to ensure there will be 100 gigawatts of nuclear energy produced. And in order to promote the nuclear energy production and basically address this issue of nuclear fuel, where we are dependent on enriched fuel, we are promoting the Bharat reactors, right? Where rather than usage of, let's say, the enriched uranium, you require only the natural uranium itself. And that is basically the watered down version of pressurized heavy water reactors. They will use the terms such as PHWR, pressurized heavy water reactor, and Bharat small reactors, BSR. So these are the two types of nuclear models which are being promoted by Nuclear Power Corporation of India in order to ensure that rather than being dependent on the enriched fuels, we can use the natural fuels itself. And because these kind of models are being promoted, and many of these, right, let's say the industries, or even for that matter, railways is also adopting production of energy through this in order to reduce the dependence on coal, it will essentially help us to move away from burning of the coal and, right, basically reduce the emissions. This is one point. Second very important point that the writer is talking about is the dependence on renewable energy. Renewable energy. That is, in the context of renewable energy, there is always one discussion. You cannot produce the renewable energy throughout the day. That is, when the sunlight is there, you can produce renewable energy. What will happen if there is no sunlight? Right? What will happen after evening once the suns will set, once the sun will set? Can you simply take the torch? Right? Somebody will hold the mobile torch, stand in front of the panel, and generate electricity. Not possible. So there is a problem of consistent, uninterrupted power production when you talk about renewable energy such as solar as well as, let's say, wind energy. Even in the context of wind energy, you cannot produce wind energy, or let's say harness the wind energy throughout the year. There are cycles. There are certain time periods when you will get very high pace of the wind, and there are certain cycles where the pace of the wind is very less. The argument is there is this issue with renewable energy. That is one, you cannot produce throughout the day. And second, during the day, the production could end up being higher compared to demand. Is it okay? The production could end up being higher compared to demand. That is, there is excess production compared to what is required for consumption in the market. In that case, what can be done? One solution that has already been recommended and is being promoted by the government is set up at basically the battery energy storage systems. Battery energy storage systems. BESS. Please remember this. The government of India, in fact, has implemented the BESS initiative in order to ensure that, right, the electricity that is produced through renewable energy is not wasted and will be utilized. But the problem is, this electricity that is produced, if you want to store it, again you require investment. Again, you need to spend a lot of money to develop this infrastructure. So, what is the solution? What is the alternative to this? The alternative, the writer says, can we use the excess of this energy or electricity produced in order to produce hydrogen? Can we use this in a, right, let's say, electrolyzer? And those who are wondering what is an electrolyzer, electrolyzer is essentially a tool, is a, right, let's say, equipment which will basically take the electricity to break down a water molecule H2O. It will break it down and you will get hydrogen. So can we use this excess production of renewable energy during daytime in the electrolyzer, break down H2O, get hydrogen? And some of you might be thinking, what is the use of this hydrogen? Hydrogen can be used, like I said, in the industries. Hydrogen can be used in industries in place of carbon. Remember this. Hydrogen can be in fact used in industries in place of carbon. For example, in case of, let's say, smelting process of iron ore, in case of smelting process of iron ore, instead of using carbon or the coal essentially watered down is carbon. So instead of using carbon there, you can use hydrogen. So this will reduce the reliance of, right, let's say, consumption of carbon. And you also require hydrogen in other industries such as the fertilizer sector, such as fertilizer sector. For example, those particular companies which want to produce urea, right? All of you heard of a fertilizer by the name of urea. So if you want to produce, right, a fertilizer such as urea, essentially you need to have a input or a raw material, that is hydrogen. Hydrogen will be used to produce ammonia. So argument is, focus on the renewable. If there is excess production, then you can harness it, right? Basically divert it to industries. For that, you need to have integration of all of the grid systems to ensure supply of this electricity will be done in an efficient manner. So these are some of the things which have been discussed in this article. Essentially, the writer is underscoring the fact that there will be increased demand for electricity. And if you want a data point, somebody will say, sir, give me some data so that I'll write in the exam, etc. Right now, the peak demand means highest demand of electricity essentially is around 250 gigawatts plus. 250 gigawatts plus. And by 2032, it is expected to peak to around 360 gigawatts plus. Right? So essentially, the demand will keep on increasing. So we need to increase the production of, right, let's say, renewable energy, production of nuclear energy, production of hydrogen in order to ensure our reliance on the fossil fuel consumption will go down. That is essentially the summary of, or one line summary of this article. Done? Okay, so based on this article, right, or let's say other important information that you might know, I've given a question for answer writing practice here. Answer writing assignment number 50. In the context of energy security, environmental sustainability, there is a need to promote nuclear solar energy in India. Highlight the challenges and suggest measures to accelerate the transition towards these clean energy sources. 15 marker question for 250 words. Please try it out. Next article, having a regulatory approach towards artificial intelligence in India. Now, what are the important points? In recent times, every now and then you will come across discussion regarding usage of artificial intelligence. In many of the context, AI will be discussed, right? Basically violating certain copyright laws. Right? For example, the recent trend of Ghibli. In many of the areas, the AI will be discussed in the context of loss of manpower or loss of jobs or employment opportunities. In certain contexts, certain ethical issues will be discussed considering AI. Right? The privacy issues are connected to AI, etc. So there are multiple facets which are associated with the concept of artificial intelligence here. But the writer simply says, what about regulation of artificial intelligence? Do we have one law which is a practice or convention which is practiced by all the countries around the world? Right now, there is no single law which is practiced by the countries. Is there a common practice followed by all the countries around the world regards to the artificial intelligence? Again, there is no, right, let's say common practices which are followed by the countries around the world. For example, if you take European Union, if you take the country European Union, I'm sorry, the group of countries European Union, the European Union has one of the most comprehensive, the most stringent laws regulating as well as promoting the usage of artificial intelligence. In that particular AI Act, Artificial Intelligence Act, the European Union has essentially divided the usage of artificial intelligence into four categories where AI will be allowed, where AI usage will be prohibited, where AI usage will be limited, etc. There is a restriction, there is a regulation like this. And if any of these stakeholders are found to be violating these guidelines, in such cases, there are stringent penalties that are prescribed under the AI law of European Union. Whereas take the countries such as China. China follows an approach where sector wise, right, based on the usage in the sector, there are different regulations. USA also follows, of course, no law, but through the executive order which was issued by Mr. Biden, which has been withdrawn by Mr. Trump now. They also have a similar practice like this. Come to the context of India. Come to India. Do we have a law regulating artificial intelligence? Do we have a single piece of legislation, all right, basically talking about artificial intelligence? The answer to this question is no. We do not have a single piece of legislation. In fact, if you have observed very carefully, the Ministry of Electronics is saying that we are in the process of preparing a legislation or preparing a policy. Rather than saying a legislation, they'll say policy. Because across the world, generally the term used is the policy for AI policy. The argument is the government of India, in case of India, we have a different, right, let's say approaches like this. The mighty Minister of Electronics says, we are considering a policy, we will announce it. There are certain provisions under Information Technology Act. There are certain provisions or let's say guidelines which have been announced by Reserve Bank of India regarding utilization of artificial intelligence in banking sector. Right? So what you're saying is there is no single piece of legislation or a framework. That is point number one. There is no single legislation or single policy. But was it proposed anywhere? Listen to me carefully. Last decade, that is essentially okay. That is essentially back in the year 2018, Niti Aayog came out with a policy. Back in the year 2018, Niti Aayog essentially came out with a strategy or a policy, AI for all. The document was named as AI for all, Artificial Intelligence for All. The government of India so far neither has said it will accept the document or it has rejected the document. But the problem with this kind of a approach, I'll give you both the sides of the argument. The problem with this kind of a approach, the writer simply says is, you do not have a consolidated policy in India regarding artificial intelligence. You do not have a consolidated policy. And you require a consolidated policy. Reason being, when you have a policy, you basically tell what are the objectives in the policy. You tell what are the, right, let's say, strategic areas in the policy. You provide funding for the implementation of the policy. You basically set up priorities or the targets for the effective implementation and the outcomes to be achieved. And whenever this kind of a policy is announced by the government, it actually leads to a lot of discussion, lot of debate amongst the stakeholders. Right? Everybody is okay? It will actually lead to lot of debate amongst the stakeholders. For example, when the announcement of data protection bill was done, have you not heard multiple types of discussion, raising concerns, raising issues regarding the provisions under the DPDP, right? Let's say the DP Act of 20 or Bill of 2023. So argument is, you do not have a consolidated policy. You do not have a strategy statement regarding artificial intelligence. And when you want the private investment to flow, because right now the focus in case of India is to have an artificial intelligence, have a model, just like China has a DeepSeek, just like USA has, right, let's say Chat GPT. We also want to develop these kind of language models. The focus is on development, promotion of these models. In fact, government of India has also provided certain incentives, initiatives are there for development of artificial intelligence and the promotion of it in India. What about the regulation of it? What about, right, let's say, which authority will take care of these issues in case there is a privacy issue, in case there is a copyright issue, in case, right, the discussion has to be had regarding, let's say, application of, right, these AIs, which will have certain ethical issues, etc. So that is the angle which is being discussed in this phase or in this article by the writer here. Okay, now what is the argument of the government? If at all government will provide an argument, what could be the argument of the government? Why they do not have a, right, let's say, a framework regarding regulated regulation of artificial intelligence? The government simply would simply say, we want to keep on changing, adapting to the very fast changes that are happening in this particular segment. Right? This segment of artificial intelligence or the industry of artificial intelligence is not a stagnant one. It is fast changing. What is the latest technology last week will become outdated after 2 weeks. So in that particular case, it is an evolving area. And because it is an evolving area, I want to have that freedom to keep on changing, adapting to whatever is changing in the economy or whatever is changing in this particular segment of artificial intelligence. The writer simply raises a pertinent question that might work out for certain time period, but government should come out with basic strategy document or a policy document regarding artificial intelligence, because that will send out a signal to private sector that government of India is focused on the promotion of this. Government of India wants to use artificial intelligence not only to promote growth but also to promote development as well. So these are certain important points which have been mentioned in this article by the writer, where she says there is a need for policy for regulating artificial intelligence in India like many other countries have around the world. In fact, the article simply says around 80 plus countries, 80 plus countries either have announced a single strategy policy document or have put forward a proposal to announce a policy document or policy for promotion and regulation of artificial intelligence. Done? Okay. So let me go to the next article here. Missing women from factory floors. So far, so good. Everybody is able to follow the discussion. Please do let me know. Ah, okay. So next article, missing women from factory floors. What are the important points here? The important points are, let's go right at discussing all of this. Point number one, India wants to become a developed country. No doubt in this. India wants to become a developed country. But you cannot achieve the status of a developed country if one segment of the society is having most of the income. If one segment of the society has a higher representation in the labor market. And when I say one society or one part of the society here, I'm essentially referring to the male population. The male population, that is, historically, if you see, out of the total population in India, a large chunk of it is male population. Agreed. But when you talk about the participation of workers in the labor market, essentially there are two types of jobs here. Listen to me carefully. When you talk about participation, there'll be two types of jobs. One is called as a formal job, and the other one is called as informal job. And trust me when I say this, if I were to ask you, imagine you're sitting in the hall now, I will ask you, define what is a formal job and informal job. A lot of you will not have any clue regarding this. Instead of telling me the definition, you will simply tell me what are the examples of formal as well as informal. And many of you will basically say, sir, where it is given? I have not come across this in any newspaper, any book, etc. My dear, if you people have read NCRTs, in the NCRT book, it is clearly defined as to what is a formal job and a informal job. According to the definition given in the NCRT, formal jobs essentially include government jobs. The government jobs, that is the government of India and as well as the right state owned enterprises, etc. If you're working in all of this, those are considered as formal jobs where there is a guaranteed salary, where there is a, right, let's say job security, where you will enjoy hidden benefits, right? Whereas in case of informal jobs, no such, right, let's say benefits are given to you. If you take out of all the jobs, if you take out, let's say, the government jobs, jobs in government owned enterprises, jobs in private sector where 10 or more employees are there, if you take this out, remaining part is informal jobs. In fact, majority of the jobs in India are informal in nature, right? And the problem with informal job nature is no job security, no fixed salary, no hidden benefits, etc. Now, why I'm discussing both of these, right, let's say points here, formal and informal, let's connect it to what is given in the form of data in the article here. The article simply says, if you look at the number of workers in formal jobs as well as informal jobs, in case of informal jobs, majority of them are women workers. Majority of them are women workers. And not just this, the article also says majority of the jobs which are held by women in India are concentrated within specific types of sectors or industries and are concentrated within few of the states. Is my statement okay? I'll repeat this. Majority of these particular jobs are concentrated within specific or certain number of industries and within certain number of states. And what does it actually represent, or what does it actually mean when you talk about all of these data points? You talk about Nari Shakti. You talk about inclusive growth. You talk about becoming a developed country by 2047. But when you look at all of this, will you not realize there is a huge gender disparity in India? I hope I'm able to make this particular point to all of you. There is a huge gender disparity in India. That is, in case of formal jobs, majority of them are accumulating or right are consisting of male workers, whereas informal jobs which do not have, let's say, a fixed salary, which do not have a job security, their women participation is very very high. And five of the states, have a look at this particular data here: Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, Maharashtra, Gujarat. Put together, they account for around three-fourth of the total manufacturing jobs where women are working. Right? I'll repeat the statement. Around three-fourth of the total number of jobs in the manufacturing sector are concentrated in five of the states in India. Right? So, which essentially means you need to diversify the job creation. You need to diversify, right? Let's say within the industries also. That is essentially whether you take formal or informal jobs where women are working, a large chunk of the women are working in textile sector. Large chunk of women are working in textile sector. In addition to textile, another industry where they are found to be working very high in number is the tobacco industry. So if you look at the, let's say, the sectoral distribution or industrial distribution like this, majority of the women are working in informal jobs and majority of them are working essentially in these particular, right, let's say industries, which also means we need to diversify. You do not have to focus only on these industries for the job generation. There are many other industries which are labor intensive. Mind you, they are labor intensive, where you can promote the generation of the jobs, ensure that the female labor is absorbed in the market. So what is the solution then? What is the way forward? Because many of you will simply say, sir, you will tell the problem and go forward. Who will tell the solution? Who will give me way forward? I will have to give way forward in the interview also. You're simply following the principle of shoot and scoot. Simply tell the problem and run away. Right? Give me solution also. So way forward are these: one, you need to ensure more and more women and girls are educated. More and more women and girls are educated. That is, according to multiple surveys, it has been found that hardly around 25% to 30% of the total workforce comprising women have finished 12th class or above 12th class. They have, right, finished 12th class or above 12th class. Whereas in case of male workers, it is more than 40% of the total working population. That is male working population, which essentially means you need to ensure that more and more women, more and more girls will get access to education. Because whether you like it or don't like it, the fact of the matter is many of the jobs in the formal sector requires educational qualification. Educational qualification. You require certain minimum educational qualification. So first one is that. Second one is a skilling. Second one is skilling. Promote a skilling initiative. In fact, the article itself simply says, according to Periodic Labor Force Survey, PLFS, Labor Force Survey, which is conducted by MOSPI, hardly around 6% of the women workforce is skilled. Hardly around 6% of the women, right, in the sectors are actually having certain skill sets. That is, either they have obtained the training or they have, right, let's say certification, etc. Hardly 6%, which essentially means a lot of them, because they do not have the skill set, will be forced to work in the informal segment. Will be forced to work in the informal segment. So that is the reason, promote skilling initiatives. Let's have certain initiatives targeting women beneficiaries. Third one, diversification of the jobs. Diversification of jobs. Like I said, right now, majority of these particular jobs are present in industries such as tobacco. They're present in, let's say, industries such as textiles. But there are many other industries where we will require a lot of labor. Why don't we diversify the job generation, ensure the jobs are generated for women participation in other industries as well? And the fourth one, safety of women at workplace. Safety of women at workplace. In fact, there is one initiative which has been undertaken by the government of Tamil Nadu. The government of Tamil Nadu, which is mentioned here. Again, I'm mentioning this because it is there in the article. So, government of Tamil Nadu is basically promoting an initiative where, right, they have started constructing hostels for working women. Hostels for working women, which will basically ensure certain type of safety for working women who have to move to, let's say, cities or let's say semi-urban centers, etc., in search of jobs. So that will also promote more and more participation of women in the workforce, which will increase the contribution to the economic activity. And once we become a developed country, we can ensure that it is not just the male population which is getting the benefits of the growth, it is also the female population as well. Done? So these are certain things which are mentioned in this article. Next article. Everybody is okay with the discussion so far? Please do let me know in the chat section. Do let me know in the chat section. Everybody is okay with the discussion? Okay. Next one. Are births, deaths being properly registered? And there is a concern which has been discussed here. Are births and deaths properly registered in India? And if you're wondering, sir, what are you looking at your right side like this? Right? Why are you not looking at the camera, etc.? My dear, right? I'm not able to see the comments in, right? Let's say the monitor. I'm seeing the comments in the laptop. That's the only reason I'm looking at the right side. Okay. Now let me continue the discussion. Are births, deaths properly registered? What are the important points? There is an authority by the name of RGI, Registrar General of India. RGI, Registrar General of India. And in recent times, you must have heard of RGI. Sir, what is the context? There is a lot of discussion regarding census, correct? Right? There is a lot of discussion regarding census. Should we have census before 2026 or after 2026? Why has the government of India not allocated or not started, right, the practice of census, etc.? So it is the Registrar General of India which will conduct the census operation or census, right? Let's say is conducted by RGI. RGI was established in 1949, and please understand it was established under Ministry of Home, right? Ministry of Home Affairs. It was established under Ministry of Home Affairs. Okay, right? Let's start. So Ministry of Home Affairs has this particular authority, RGI. Now, what is the discussion which is there in the newspaper? What is the discussion? You need to have a proper number regarding how many deaths are happening in India, how many births are happening in India, how many children are born, how many people died. You need to have a proper number. So, regarding this, there is one act. Please remember the name of the act: Registration of Births and Death Act of 1969. Is everybody okay with the long form here? I'll repeat this because somebody will write in the comment section what is RBD. Right? Registration of Birth and Death Act of 1969. According to this RBD, please understand, it is the RGI, Registrar General of India, which has been, right, made the authority to collect the data regarding how many births have happened, how many deaths have taken place. And you need the number. Mind you, you need the number. Sir, why? Why should I require this kind of a number? My dear, tomorrow once you become, let's say, a chief secretary, I wish all of you become chief secretary, but fact is not possible. Not because you will not pass IAS, but because at one time there is only one chief secretary. Right? So I hope you understand, or cabinet secretary for that matter. Tomorrow, once you become a cabinet secretary, you need to basically put forward a proposal to the government, or let's say to the prime minister. Tell prime minister, sir, right, this we should do, this we should do in terms of population, etc. Now, don't you think you should have a proper data regarding, let's say, how many children are born in India? Don't you think you should require data regarding how many, right, people are dying in India? So, what is the methodology of collection of this data? According to this act, RGI has been made the authority responsible for collection of data. This is the point. And RGI essentially understand this. Under this particular act, RGI simply says there will be a system called as a civil registration system, CRS, civil registration system. This has been made mandatory by the government of India starting October 2023. Starting October 2023, this is mandatory. This system is mandatory for, right, let's say, providing the data to the government regarding the births. Right, please remember. Right, so CRS system is there, and RGI simply says the government hospitals will have to collect the data and enter the data registering the births of the children. Registering the birth of the children, this process has to be followed from October 2023. It is mandatory, by the way. But what is the concern which has been raised by RGI? Very recently, there was a paper published and a notice has been sent, or a letter has been sent to all the, right, government hospitals, as well as even lot of private sector hospitals as well. The issue that has been raised in this notice, or let's say the letter, is around 10%. Around 10% of the birth as well as the deaths are not being registered. Right, around 10% of the births of the children, as well as, right, or births of the babies, and the death of the people are not getting registered. Right, and the argument is, why are we not registering it? Why are we not having a consolidated data? Because we require all of this data. in terms of birth of the child, you need a birth certificate. In fact, government now has amended this, right? Registration of Birth and Death Act. And according to this particular amendment, the birth certificate, you will have to get it from CRS only. You have to get the birth certificate of the child born through the CRS only. And that has to be issued in the next 7 days once the registration has happened. But this registration has to be done by the hospital. And the argument of RGI is hospitals are not following this. They are not simply following it. And some of you might be thinking, sir, in that case, why do we require the death certificate? My dear, I'll just connect it to current affairs. Very recently, there has been a lot of discussion regarding job cards in the Mandrega, correct? The job cards regarding Mandrega, there has been a lot of discussion. One of the reasons why the job cards get deleted is because of death of the beneficiary. So don't you think you need to register the death of the beneficiary? You should have the certificate to prove that a person is dead. You want to transfer the property. Right? So for a lot of these particular reasons, you require a death certificate. So that's the reason RGI now simply says, right, all the hospitals, right, all of these entities, stakeholders in the system under this act must follow the guidelines, must submit the data. You don't put the burden on the let's say relatives. In lot of instances, it has been seen even for registration of the death, hospitals are not taking that duty. In fact, it is their duty. Under RBD Act, according to the latest amendment, if somebody who is supposed to register the birth or death is not following, is not abiding by the duty, the penalty as well. How much is the penalty? Before the amendment, when I read this, I also chuckled a bit. When I read this, the statement said, before the amendment was done in 2023, if you fail to register and it is your duty to register these deaths and births, you'll be penalized with 50 rupees. Get the number. You'll be penalized with 50 rupees. 50 rupee penalty will be imposed on you. And this now has been increased to how much? After the amendment in 2023, it has been increased to 1000 rupees. It has been increased to 1000 rupees. And frankly, I feel, this is my opinion by the way. You may criticize, you may like it, doesn't matter, it is my opinion. Frankly, I feel even this particular 1000 rupees is not sufficient. Why? Private sector hospitals, rather than hiring people, rather than right putting a workload on these people to basically, let's say, do all of this work, they will simply put this burden on the relatives of the right deceased person. They will only say you register. Right? If the child is born, they'll say you register. And we being we, Aam Aadmi, common citizen, please be very frank. Did you know that it is the duty of the hospital to register the birth of the child? Did you even know that there is a portal called as a CRS where registration has to happen? Because we are Aam Aadmi, we generally do not know, we are not aware of all of it. And that is the reason why these hospitals generally will put the burden on the common man and make the common man suffer, right, and get the registration. Is it okay? Right. So these are certain very important point, very, very novel article. Novel in the sense, generally you don't get these kind of articles in the newspapers, but I felt this is an important one because a lot of discussions happening regarding census data. Suddenly UPSC might drag the concept of RGI in the context of registration of birth and death act. They might raise a question on this, so be very careful. So MCQ number 93. Consider the following statements regarding Registrar General of India. RGI functions under Ministry of Human Resources. RGI is responsible for the implementation of Registration of Births and Death Act. Is also responsible for conducting population census. How many of the statements are true? Do let me know in the chat section. If not, I will tell you the key answer later. By the way, many of you will basically keep on complaining, sir, so many years. Should we remember these number of years? Right, 1969, 1949. I'll tell you a very simple key to remember at least these two. One is it was set up in 1949 and RBD Act of 1969. RGI was set up in 1949. So can you remember something related to 1949 in Indian economy, which is a very, very big event? Do let me know. Anything in 1949, which is a very, very major event that by default you will remember. Please do let me know. What is 1949 related to in Indian economy? Can I simply say nationalization of Reserve Bank of India? Correct or not? Nationalization of Reserve Bank of India. And 1969, anything related to 1969, very big event in 1969 related to Indian economy, nationalization of banking sector. Right? So just try to connect it like this. Easily you will be able to remember. Now let me go forward. Extraditions tough till conditions improve in prisons. Statement given by Justice Madan Lokar. Now, there are two very important points discussed in the article here. One, the state of prisons in India. Okay, the state of prisons in India. And second one, the IJR report. That is essentially India Justice Report. Let me discuss both of these aspects. Point number one, in recent times, there has been a lot of discussion regarding extradition. Correct? A lot of discussion has been happening regarding extradition. That is, government of India has put up an extradition request in the context of A, B, C, D, E. Right? We want to extradite them, hold them accountable according to India's judiciary, Indian legal system. But in lot of these cases, when Indian government will put up a request of extradition to other countries, the judiciary there generally rejects them, or it will take a very, very long time period. Right? I hope you understand. You can take multiple examples in recent times itself. Mr. Mehul Choksi or that particular person Rana who has been extradited, etc. We have tried for extradition for multiple people. In many cases, the courts there have rejected the request. In many cases, it has taken decades and decades, years and years for us to finally get the person extradited into India. Justice Lokur basically says the reason why there is a lot of delay to get these particular people extradited back is when you put up a request to basically extradite a person into India, the person will approach judiciary there. Right? They will go to judiciary of that particular country, right? Basically appeal against the request. And a lot of times the judiciary in the foreign country will look at what is the status of prisons in India. Simple. They will look at what is the status of prisons in India. And what they generally look at and what they generally come to a conclusion is that the number of people in Indian prisons is very high. It is overcrowded, right? Very, very highly crowded. And lot of the times there is a torture that is used by Indian policemen. Even though the people are behind the bars, torture, right, is used by the policemen to get, let's say, statements by these, alleged people or alleged criminals. And the third one, in many of the cases, the courts have stated that within the prisons also, when people are behind the bars, people are attacked, people are getting killed. And I'm pretty sure you must have heard of multiple examples where, let's say, a gangster will be murdered in a prison, right? An alleged molester or alleged rapist will be killed in prison. Now, I hope you understand, it's a moral issue, complicated issue. Should they be killed, etc., etc. But legally, I'm of the strong opinion, let the courts take their time. In the sense, I'm not saying 10 years, 15 years. Let the process be extradited. Let's go through, let's say, a legal process. The argument is the courts look at the number of, let's say, people in Indian prison, right, the kind of torture they undergo. And many of the times, the people or the alleged criminals are killed in the prison. And when they look at all of this, the courts outside India will not permit extradition of people back to India. They will deny the request from the Indian government. And in multiple cases, the courts there have basically asked for a guarantee. They've asked for certain guarantees from Indian side. So they will ask, can you guarantee, right, this person will be safe in India? Can you guarantee this kind of a treatment will not be meted out, etc.? No such guarantees are generally provided by the government, and even if they are given with a very delayed time period. As a result of this, the extradition either will be rejected or extradition request to be approved will take a very, very long time period. So at the end of this particular speech, Justice Lokur basically argues that we need to improve the situation of prisons in India. We need to improve the situations of prisons in India. And why is he discussing all of this? The background to this is Indian Justice Report or India Justice Report 2025. Now, what are the important highlights in the IGR 2025? Point number one, the main back, right? Let's say the party which is supporting, which is providing funding, etc., for this kind of a report is Tata Trust. Along with the Tata Trust, there are multiple NGOs, multiple other entities which are providing funding for publishing or conducting a survey and publishing of these reports. Okay, this is point number one. And what are the findings in the report? These findings can be useful for your prelims as well as mains examination. The findings of the report are alarming. This report evaluates India's system under four parameters. There are four parameters on which the number or the data is provided. The four parameters essentially are police, judiciary, prisons, and legal aid. Police, judiciary, prisons, and legal aid. These are the four parameters. And what are the findings published in the report? First one, average number of workload per judge. What is the number of cases per judge? What is the average number of cases? 2,200 cases. 2,200 cases. Average is that. 38% is the share of women judges in the district judiciary. And if you talk about the police, to talk about the police, the participation of women at the highest level, that is, let's say, above constable, the women, the number of positions held by women is very, very small. Majority of them are held by male population itself. Per capita spending in legal aid, that is to provide assistance in fighting cases, etc. Per capita, per person, how much legal aid is provided in India? 6 rupee. Average 6 rupee 46 paise. Right, so these are certain important points. You can have a look at it. I've taken the snippet or let's say the snapshot of important findings in the report. Very alarming state. So argument is very simple. We need to address these particular issues to improve the situation of India's right. Let's say the prisons in India, or right. Let's say ensuring that people, right, or let's say the people who have been accused will get justice, or at least the justice is done for whichever party is there in the case. So these are certain points which have been mentioned in the article. Please go through that. Next article, Operation Chakra. Operation Chakra. Very often in the newspaper, we will come across the concept of, right, let's say, digital arrest. All of you heard of this? Digital arrest. In fact, this particular problem of digital arrest was even mentioned. One of the, right, let's say, Man Ki Baat, right, done by Prime Minister. Prime Minister basically said all of us are need to be aware of these kind of, let's say, unscrupulous activities, criminal activities. We need to protect ourselves from these kind of activities. So what has been done here? CBI, have a look at this. CBI from 2022 has been conducting certain operations, and this operation has been named as Operation Chakra. Remember this name. The operation has been named as Operation Chakra. CBI under Operation Chakra is using technology, is having tie-ups with multiple companies such as Google, Microsoft. Is also taking assistance from international agencies and trying to address these kind of digital scams. They're trying to address these kinds of digital scams. Address in the sense they want to conduct investigation and they want to basically arrest the people, put a stop to these kind of digital scams. Now, the fifth version, I said it was launched in 2022, 2022, 23, 24. Now, in 25, there is right, a fifth raid which has been conducted, right? Fifth round of raids which have been conducted by CBI under Operation Chakra 5. And this has been done, please understand, in the context of a digital arrest which has happened in Rajasthan. In Rajasthan, it was found that a person was put in digital arrest for multiple months. Mind you, I'll repeat the statement so that the point basically sinks into your mind. A person was put under digital arrest where the other side, that is, the criminals basically said, we are from different agencies of government of India for multiple months. And crores of rupees have been taken from this particular person. So the government of Rajasthan referred this particular case to CBI. CBI has conducted a detailed investigation, has searched multiple places, raided multiple places, and has arrested people now, has arrested four kingpins in this particular digital arrest fraud. So, in that particular context, the Operation Chakra becomes a very, very important, very relevant for civil services. Please make a note of the name, can be asked in the preliminary examination. Okay. Now, associated with this, MCQ number 94, consider the following statements regarding Operation Chakra. This is very easy now. It has been launched by CBI in 2022. Objective is to combat transnationally organized cyber enabled financial crimes within India. And what is the right answer? Do let me know. Again, it's a very easy question because we have already discussed it. Next article, interesting one. Why? I've taken this article from Indian Express because it was not mentioned in today's Hindu newspaper. Why it is interesting? Please have a look at it. A lot of times, under the ecology and environment, you will be coming across the discussion related to carbon trading mechanism. But in Indian Express today, there is one article which is mentioned regarding particulate emission trading. PM, particulate emission or particulate matter emission trading market. I hope you understand the importance of this article. Why? Lot of times I know that is also equally important. Carbon trading will be discussed. We should have carbon trading mechanism in India. We should set up. Government of India has announced a policy. We are yet to bring it, etc. Yes, equally important is here particulate matter trading mechanism, which was the world's first set up in Gujarat. The world's first PM matter trading, particulate matter trading market, which has been set up in Gujarat back in 2019. Back in 2019, right? Not set up now, back in 2019. But why it is there in the newspaper now? There is a research which has been conducted comparing the companies which are part of the trading market here and companies outside the market. Simple. Right? Just like carbon trading, all of you know the basics of carbon trading. We will fix a quota for all these industries. If you emit more than that, you'll have to purchase right certificates from others. And if you emit less than the quota, you can sell certificate to others. That is carbon certificate. The same way, in the PM market, particulate matter, right? The particulate matter market, same, the quotas have been fixed for these particular industries which are participating. And there's a trading platform. If you are emitting less than this, and right, essentially, you will be allowed to sell the excess certificates to somebody else. So the study has been conducted by right the multiple agencies or multiple international universities understanding the impact of this mechanism. And the studies have shown that as a result of this particular mechanism, the companies essentially have been able to reduce their cost in terms of, let's say, implementing the policies. The overall emissions have come down in the context of this particulate matter in the range of 20 to 30. Right? So this is what has been discussed in this article regarding particulate matter emission market. Please make a note of this. This has been set up. The world's first particulate matter market has been set up in Gujarat. That is specifically in Surat. Right? Somebody will ask, sir, where? Where in Gujarat? Specifically in Surat. And the article simply says why it has been chosen. Why Surat was chosen to set up this particular market? Surat was chosen because it is having a lot of industrial clusters. It has, right, a lot of industrial clusters. That is the reason. Right. And this particular market, the ETS, Surat ETS, they are calling this as Surat ETS, emission trading system. The Surat or emission trading scheme, the Surat ETS has been set up by GPCB, that is Gujarat Pollution Control Board. Please make a note of all of these particular points. Be aware of it, can be asked in the preliminary exam. Okay, done. So next article, right? The one who is basically commenting multiple times, have patience. I'll pick up your question at the end of the session. Okay. It's not that I've not seen. It's that I've seen. I will answer to your question at the end of the session. Let me complete the discussion. Okay, let's start. Child trafficking case. One more interesting article in Indian Express. In fact, to be very frank here, Similar article is there in Hindu as well. Right? It is there in Hindu as well. But the discussion which is given in Hindu newspaper is more related to the Supreme Court judges warning parents, warning them, right, etc., etc. But in the Indian Express, much better information was given. That's the reason I've taken the article from Indian Express. What are the important points? Over a period of time, in case of India, there have been, let's say, annually lakhs of people who have been trafficked. Lakhs and lakhs of people who have been trafficked. According to one estimate, in a span of 2 to 3 years, more than 3 lakh people have been trafficked in India. Essentially, they have been pushed into, right, let's say, prostitution, right? Their organs have been sold, etc. Different illegal activities have been conducted by trafficking humans. So, what is the Supreme Court of India arguing here? What is the order of Supreme Court of India? Supreme Court of India, in its judgment, is basically saying there are multiple instances where there is a traffic ring. That is, people from different states will come together. People who are supposed to protect, they are also part of this particular ring. And as a result of which, not only, right, let's say the adults are getting trafficked, even children and babies, the newborn babies, are also being trafficked here. For example, in multiple instances, you must have heard of newborn baby is trafficked, right? It will be stolen from the hospital, and in multiple instances, it has been seen that the hospital staff itself is a party in this, right? The doctors, or for that matter, let's say the nurses, the attenders, etc. In multiple cases, it has been found they are also part of this particular ring, or let's say the group of people conducting these illegal activities. So the important points which you need to make a note of are: one, Supreme Court of India now has a directed high courts. All the high courts have been directed by the Supreme Court of India. What is the direction? They need to basically need to estimate and provide a data to the Supreme Court of India regarding how many child trafficking cases are pending. How many child trafficking cases are pending? That data has to be given to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court now says a direction or the order has to be issued to all the courts, saying that in the next 6 months, in the next 6 months, all these cases will have to be cleared. All the pending cases will have to be cleared, because the Supreme Court of India says these cases are being run, or basically are being conducted for multiple years now. No need. If there is a requirement of day to day hearing, let's do that. But ensure that all these child trafficking cases, right, will essentially be cleared in the next 6 months. This order has been issued by the Supreme Court of India in the context of one order by a lower court, where around 15 people were accused of being involved in interstate child trafficking. Interstate, mind you. And the lower court has given a bail to them without having any kind of a restriction. Restriction in the sense, a lot of times, whenever the bail is given, the person who is accused of a crime will be asked to go to the nearest police station and provide the sign or provide the thumbprint on everyday basis or on weekly basis. The best example that you can remember is the Singham movie. Correct? All of you remember that? Right? A person who is accused of certain illegal activity, they'll be asked to be present in the police station once in a week, right? Every day, etc. But in this case, the Supreme Court is astonished because the lower court has not put any kind of a condition on these people before giving a bail. Lower court simply said, next time when hearing will be there, you should be present in the court. And when you provide this kind of a judgment, and I hope you understand, you can extrapolate this discussion to other judgments as well. For example, in today's Hindu newspaper, there is one more article regarding Allahabad High Court. Allahabad High Court. And the Supreme Court justices are astonished as to what kind of, let's say, the judgments or the orders or even points are being mentioned in the, right, let's say, orders of the Allahabad High Court. Why the judges at Allahabad High Court are doing like this? Right? So argument is simple here. Whenever these kind of, let's say, orders are issued, let's say a bail order is issued, there is no restriction, there is no condition on the person to be present, right, within the jurisdiction of, let's say, a police station, so that the police are aware the person is still there in their jurisdiction itself. In this case, what has happened? Bail has been given. Most of them have absconded. Most of them have absconded. That's it. So as a result of this, the Supreme Court simply says, no, let's not follow the same procedure now. Ask all the courts to finish off or basically hear them day to day and clear these particular cases in the next 6 months. This is the judgment which has been issued by the Supreme Court in the context of child trafficking. In fact, there is one interesting point which has been mentioned by the Supreme Court. Supreme Court has mentioned that let all the states basically implement the findings of Bharatiya Institute Research and Development, BIRD. Right? There is an institute back in 2023. This institute, it has been asked to submit a report regarding why these kind of trafficking cases are happening in India. What is the lacunae where there is a problem in terms of regulation, and the BIRD has made certain findings. Please make a note of all of these findings, and you do not have to write it down. It is there in the PPT. Once the class is over, I will upload this particular PPT in my Telegram channel. Download it. It has essentially mentioned certain important findings. For example, in lot of cases, when a person is missing, when the child is missing, police do not take it seriously. Their argument is they will come. Let's wait for 24 hours. Let's wait for 48 hours. Right? If I register a case now, we will have to do this, etc., etc. Right? So they will simply take it lightly in the beginning. But what BIID simply says is, in majority of the cases, when people go missing, it is in most of the cases connected to their trafficking. It is connected to their trafficking. So the argument of BID report is, let the police do not take it lightly, treat the cases as a trafficking case from the beginning itself, so that the precious time is not lost. Second, there is a law called as Immoral Traffic Prevention Act, ITPA. Immoral Traffic Prevention Act, ITPA. Under this particular act, let's say somebody is being pushed into prostitution. There are provisions to prevent it. Right? Somebody is promoting these kind of activities in open public. There are provisions to prevent it. The report simply says a lot of times either these provisions are not at all implemented, are implemented but in a very callous manner, not implemented correctly. As a result of this, there is instead of controlling the right, let's say trafficking, instead of controlling the instances of women being pushed into prostitution, because the regulation is not efficient, all of these will start thriving. It has been pointed out that there are multiple shortcomings that have been adopted by multiple institutions in the system. So these are certain findings which have been given in this particular report by BIRD. And have a look at this. What are the recommendations? What you should write as a recommendation? First one, law officials should treat cases of missing children as abduction and trafficking. It has been recommended by BID. Let us treat it as a trafficking case itself. Supreme Court has directed all the state governments and high courts to study the report and commence implementation of these particular recommendations. And high courts have been instructed, like I said earlier, to clear all the backlog cases of child trafficking in the next 6 months. Okay, done. So last article for today. After this, I'll address your questions. Right, article regarding inflation. I've taken the editorial from Indian Express and the headline from Hindu. What are the important points here? Point number one, inflation rate for the month of March has been published. For the month of March has been published. And this is a good news because the inflation rate for the month of March is the lowest in the last 5 years. Is it okay? It is the lowest in the last 5 years. The inflation data is a 3.3% for March 2025 and the lowest in the last 5 years. The good news. Why? Very recently, Reserve Bank of India has cut the repo rate once again. Twice now, RBI or Monetary Policy Committee has cut down the repo rate. Totally 50 basis cut has been done by RBI. As a result of this, already you are seeing multiple banks also reducing their interest rates. Multiple banks are also cutting their interest rate. So the argument, right, that you need to understand in the context of this newspaper article is that it will basically help RBI in cutting the interest rates further in the coming months. So we have had monetary policy review in the month of April. So after 2 months again, there will be one more monetary policy review. If the situation continues in the same way, and it is expected to continue in the same way, although there are certain problems or concerns. Why I'm saying it is going to continue in the same way? The problems which contribute to inflation in the domestic market, basically two problem areas. One is food articles, and the second one is essentially fuel. Food and fuel are the culprits here. Traditionally, these have been contributing to the domestic inflation rate. Regarding the food, there is a good production is which is expected to come from the current cycle of agriculture. In fact, Indian Meteorological Department is stated, or it has stated that there will be good amount of rainfall above normal in the coming right monsoon season. As a result of this, essentially what you can expect, the production of food articles in the domestic market will be good, supply will be good. As such, in the month of March, the food inflation has been lower. Now it is expected to further moderate in the coming month. That is a good news. What about fuel articles? India's import of fuel, the average price has actually come down now because the international prices also have come down. The average prices also have come down. In fact, it is around $70 per barrel now. So, as a result of this, in the coming months, we are expecting these two to moderate, continue remaining stable, and do not contribute to higher inflation trend. And if it will continue, Reserve Bank of India is expected to or have a one more cut in repo rate in the next monetary policy cycle. This will essentially increase the money supply, contribute to higher GDP growth. But having said so, there are important concerns as well. Please, right, remember this. What are the concern? Mr. Trump factor or Donald Trump factor. What will Mr. Donald Trump announce in the coming days? Neither you know nor I know, and I bet even Mr. Donald Trump doesn't know. Right? Because the policies are so erratic, policies are so abrupt. They will announce a policy, withdraw a policy, announce one more policy, announce a policy targeting only one country, only right certain countries, etc. There is a element of higher volatility that could be created because of such policy. So what will happen in the coming days because of such policies, right? In the context of supply, in the context of taxes, etc., there is uncertainty in that area, right? So these are the positive areas for us, and the uncertainty is the concerning area, right? So these are certain important points associated with the print data for inflation for the month of March 2025. Done. So let me give you the key answers of the two MCQs, then I'll address your questions. Consider the following statements regarding Registrar General of India. RJ functions under Ministry of Home Affairs. First one is incorrect. RJ is responsible for the implementation of the Registration of Birth and Death Act. Yes. Is also responsible for conducting the population census. Yes. Two statements are true. Right option will be only two. That is, two statements are correct. Consider the following statements regarding Operation Chakra. It has been launched by CBI in 2022. Yes. The objective is to combat transnationally organized cyber enabled financial crimes within India. Yes. Both the statements are true. Right option will be C, both of them. Now, if you have any questions, please do let me know. And before I basically take up your questions, a lot of you will be ready with the keyboard now. Sir, what about right my question in the previous class, etc.? Listen to me very carefully. Right? I promised you a doubt resolution session, and very soon, most probably either right on Friday or Saturday, I'll be taking a doubt resolution session. It will be a special class. It will be taken on the platform. I repeat, it will be a special class and will be taken on the platform. Right? So, sir, how will I get the link? Right? How will I know when you're conducting, etc.? Simple. Right? One of the two methods. One, you can right basically go to Unacademy website, subscribe or basically follow me. Right? Follow me. Once I schedule a special class, you will come to know. And second, right, one more method is this is the link to my Telegram channel where after the class I'll be uploading the PPT, and essentially I will give the class link as well as the timing. I'll let you know in this Telegram channel. It is entirely up to you, whichever you want to choose, you choose it. Okay. Official YM Sunday. Under which ministry RGI is? Ministry of Home Affairs. Ministry of Home Affairs. Shubham Biddu. Sir, should we do practice of CDS and NDA general test and ability test 2025? If you are preparing for civil services, take the last 5 years question papers. No need to basically complicate the whole process by preparing from multiple, right? Let's say different examination. Go with the previous 5 years question papers. Ah, any other question? Okay, somebody was basically putting multiple right comments regarding the same thing. Who was that? Please do let me know now. What is carbon offsetting? Okay, my dear, please understand. Essentially, under the idea of a carbon offsetting, which was discussed in the context of CBAM, let's say you have a company in right European market, you are imposed with a very strong restriction or very difficult restriction in terms of carbon emission. So rather than producing all of the goods, emitting more in European Union, what you will do is you will find out one more country where these restrictions are very simple, where these restrictions are at very relaxed. So what you will do, you will move your production from that country where restrictions are very strong to another country where restrictions are very right relaxed. That is basically the process there. Okay, anything else? Could you please specify to which part of GS does the article about birth and death certificate relate to? My dear, population related issues. Right, population related issues, you can use that. How trade war affects currency value? My dear, imports and exports, investments. If imports and exports are disrupted, how much a dollar you will receive, how much a dollar you require will also be disrupted. Investments coming into India or right, let's say going out of India will be disrupted. Obviously, right, there will be impact on currencies. Any other question? Kashmiri. Can we write teaching self-defense to girl child as a women empowerment question? Yeah, you can write. Many of these initiatives by NGOs, etc., they are doing that. You write it. Deepika G. Sir, in editorial, proclamation of democracy in legislative process topic missed. My dear, I read that article. It is on governor. And in the last, right, let's say 2 weeks, there have been so much discussions on the governor. I decided, why? What is the point of repeating the same thing again and again? That's a reason. Okay. Okay. Any other question? Done then. So that's it from my side. Let me stop the discussion today here. We will continue the discussion again with tomorrow's newspaper at sharp at 10 a.m. tomorrow. If you like this initiative, do not forget to hit the like button. If you're yet to subscribe to our YouTube channel, kindly do it right now. Thank you. Have a great day.